Excuse me. Okay, we're live. We are young. Heartache to heartache we stand. No promises, no demands. Love is a battlefield. We are strong. No one can tell us we're wrong. Searching our hearts for so long, both of us knowing love is a battlefield. Hopefully some people come for free live chart readings. Been trying to do these earlier. I had a new video come out today too. So the video's all about Venus entering Leo, which happens on the 11th in just a couple days. So today's the 9th. Tomorrow's the 10th. Tomorrow's the 10th. Oh, we have a couple people here. Nina, hello, sweetheart. Culpepper. I am giving personal readings today. Culpepper asked, hi, are you giving personal readings today? I am. I was just talking while I was waiting for people because we have a lot going on. I suggest everyone watch my video about Venus entering Leo because this is a really fun thing. At least it is for me. So it's my 7th house and I tend to meet new partners, which is exciting. I have a wonderful new partner, of course, but I still have a couple positions available, if you feel me. Helen Sturg, hi, finally able to catch a live. I'm so glad you're here, sweetheart. I'm so glad you're here. Anyway, yeah, please go ahead and put your birth information in there. We have a couple interesting things. If yes, so we've got Nina, we got Culpepper, and please like the stream and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I just posted a video about the astrology of the upcoming election, and I got a shitload of hate. So, I could use all the well-wishers and supporters that I can get. So yes, please subscribe to my channel and please like this stream and watch my video later about Venus and Leo. Plus it's funny. Like, astrologers are usually really boring people. And at least I'm interesting, I like doing these streams earlier in the day because I can drink coffee. And a little bit like Joe Biden, I start losing steam around, 7 o'clock at night. So I'm not quite 81 or 82, but I feel like I'm almost there, So let's start looking at personal charts. But the big things coming up are number 1, Venus going into Leo, and we'll talk a bit about that. I did your horoscopes for that on my other video. And please, 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 I am very grateful to receive tips and donations. You can give below through Super Thanks, or you can look in the description for my PayPal. I really, really appreciate it, and it helps me keep doing all this wonderful stuff. And if you can't donate, just watch my videos, along with the commercials, even though they suck. But then you don't have to give me any money because advertisers do. So please, please, please. I'm just messaging people on social media that I'm live. I'm live now. Bring your birth info. Details in comments. I'm sorry I'm doing this. We'll get right to your charts. Don't worry. Don't worry. I got you. I got you. I got you. We are young. Heartache to heartache we stand. No promises, no demands. Love is a battlefield. We are strong. No one can tell us we're wrong. Searching our hearts for so long. Both of us knowing love is a battlefield. Okay. So like I was saying, we got Venus going into Leo. Just another quantum wave function. Hello, sweetheart. Hello, I'm so glad that you're here. We're going to start looking at personal charts. Number one was Nina. Oh, it was Nina, right? Aren't you Nina? Are you the same person that usually comes whose name is Nina? And we have to look at quantum wave function. Let me see if I still have Nina in my thing. Sage Oracle. Hello, sweetheart. Hello. We're going to start personal charts. We're going to start personal charts. I just want to see who we have available on here that I don't have to enter additional info for. There we've got quantum wave function. Yes, it's Nina, right? I think I was talking about Brother Lynch Hung last time. Use yo Nina. Daniel, hello. Danielle, pardon me. Danielle. So quantum wave function is one of the members of my channel. You can sign up for memberships too, and you get priority on readings. And you get to see the replays of the live streams. If you're here with the live stream, of course you get to see it live. But then they go back to, you know, for members only. And I don't mean like members only jackets, you know. So anyway, number one, we have to do quantum wave function. And then we have Nina. And then we got Culpepper. And then we got Helen Sturg. And then we got Danielle. Wonderful. So Sage, if you would like a chart reading, please put your birth information in the chat. In this order: date, time, city, date, time, city, date, time, city. Thank you for gifting a membership. You are so good to me, Quantum. You are so good to me, Quantum. So we're going to quantum wave function here. So like I was talking about, Venus is going into Leo in just a couple days. What is that? Friday? No, Thursday. Thursday. So this is exciting. I mean, it's your 6th house, right? So this is about taking care of yourself, quantum. Just another quantum function. You're so good to me. You're so good to me. But anyway, this is a wonderful time. Now, I just had Venus going through my 6th house. And guess what I did? I made a bunch of doctor's appointments. I started to diet. I'm like trying to work on getting better sleep. And I greatly reduced my alcohol intake. So then, you know, I had a couple drinks the other night. And I woke up and just felt so sluggish and groggy in the morning. So I'm just kind of like, you know, trying to get alcohol out of my life. You know, because as we get older, I'm fucking 41, yo. You know, it takes a toll on us. Anyway, you're a 0 degree Gemini sun. I'm a 1 degree. Wonderful. Thank you, Sage Oracle. We'll get to you in just a bit. So anyway, so quantum wave function, please take the focus and put it on yourself. I mean, it is a fun transit. But it's, you know, the 6th house is all the shit that falls apart when we don't take care of it, which includes our bodies, right? The 12th house is like physical. The 12th house is like mental issues, mental problems, right? Whereas the 6th house is physical issues, physical problems, injuries, illnesses, right? 12th house is like addiction and mental health and depression and shit like that. You see? Excuse me. So even though this isn't a wonderful house, it's a wonderful time, right? Because Venus is prompting you to start getting your health in order, right? Start getting your body in order. You know, and if you don't exercise regularly, just walk for 15 to 20 minutes, at least 4 days a week. I know it sounds like it. Thank you, Nina. You're so sweet. Thank you, Nina. And you're next, my dear Nina. You are next. You are next, and then we'll get to others. We'll go to Sage Oracle because they are a new member. And then we'll go just down the list. Now, the other thing, quantum wave function, is that Mars is entering Gemini on the 20th. But before that, in Taurus, Mars is joining in a conjunction to Uranus. And I call this surprise attacks. And with your third house being highlighted here of communication and siblings, it could be a surprise attack from an extended family member, like a brother, sister, aunt, uncle, or cousin. But it could also be your own road rage, or, be careful of car accidents during this time, okay? Because the third house is also us running our errands. And I see a lot of road rage with Mars in the third house. And we talk a lot of shit. So you might have some surprise outbursts. Just watch your mouth as much as you can during this time. And then on the 20th, Mars is going into Gemini, your fourth house, right? Now you have to be careful with this because this causes schisms with the past on the one hand. Like we get sort of aggressive towards, our genealogy or our family legacy, you see? Sometimes we have conflicts at home. I see people breaking shit. Like, keep your fist out of the drywall. Put it inside someone instead. I don't want to know what your big three is. I want to know if you love fisting. I shouldn't say that on here. Although this all goes to members only after. So I don't think I have to worry too much. I don't think I have to worry too much. And we've talked a lot about Saturn going through your first house already, I think. But if your parents are still alive, you could have schisms or fights with them too. Or, grandparents are also in the fourth house. You see? So, but usually it's dad stuff. Usually it's more conflicts that have to do with dad, Whereas the 10th house has more to do with mom. Anyway, we'll move on. But this is all wonderful stuff. I mean, it's difficult on the one hand for many reasons. And on the other hand, there's still some silver lining to it, you see? Because these conflicts at home, they cause us to take care of things. And so it's great that you have the conflicts at home when you have Venus in Leo, because at least you'll get things fixed, right? At least you'll get things fixed if they do break. But let's move on. We got to do Sage Oracle, and then we're going to, we're doing Nina. And then we're doing Sage Oracle. Sorry, Nina. Let's go to Nina. I should have Nina's chart in here. Where's Nina? Don't I have Nina in here? Don't I have Nina? I thought it. Here we go. Nina. I have March 18th. Is that you? Yeah, Stockton. Oh, that's right. We talked about Stockton. I mean, I think of when I think of Stockton, I think of a rough part of town. I've been through Stockton a couple of times. But I was from San Diego, which is, a lot more affluent, I guess. When I think of Stockton, I think of, I think of shady characters in rough neighborhoods. And that's probably unfair, But so Nina, this is wonderful because Venus is entering your first house. And it's interesting too. See, I have Venus entering my 7th house, which is when I tend to meet partners. But I also tend to meet new partners when Venus is in my first house, So this is cool for you. I like it rough. I'm gritty. I bet you could kick my ass, Nina. I bet you could. I would empty my wallets if I met you, I think. Hello, so happy to caught one of your live sessions. Thank you, Ira. I hope I said that correctly, Ira. Ira Dreamseer. I hope I said that correctly. Please like the fucking stream. Please, and I'm sorry, I cussed a lot. But please like the stream. Like the stream. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Helen. You will be after Sage Oracle. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I prioritize donations, of course. You can give by using super thanks below or super chats. Or you can go to my PayPal and the link is below in the description. So anyway, I love you. Thank you. Please like the stream though and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I need all the help I can get. I got a bunch of shit the other day for my election video. So, people are calling me partisan. And I am partisan. Like, obviously, but I'm open about it. Like, I'm not trying to conceal it. So anyway, Nina. Oh, here we go. So we talked about Venus going through the first house. It could be a time when you feel especially attractive and pretty. And so that's why we tend to meet partners, because we're sort of oozing confidence. Although I also think about Venus in the first house, kind of like, Mean Girls, Regina George, or Clueless, right? Cher, or Marsha Brady, right? These are confident, popular girls, you see? And the thing you have to be careful for with that is getting too stuck up, right? Or feeling confident to the point where you're sort of imposing on other people. And remember, it's really important to, to lift people up around you, isn't it? Because it lifts us up as well. And I think, Nina, we've talked about your 8th house before. I'm only mean when it's deserved. Well, that's good. I'm a big bitch. Like, I'm mean all the time. Sometimes when it's not even deserved. But I have to train myself and remember that my temper or my impulsiveness isn't necessarily becoming. So anyway, isn't necessarily becoming. Although if you were on me, you'd be coming too. Anyway, I'm trying to watch my mouth, but at least this goes behind, for members only afterwards. Anyway, and the other thing we talked about was Uranus conjunct Mars. Love lift us up where we belong. It was good. Do you have time for another reading today? I'm here for another hour and 45 minutes. So hopefully I get through this shit quickly. I just talk a lot. So I gotta move on. So Uranus conjunct Mars is in your 10th house, right? Until July 20th. So, and this occurs on the 17th, the exact conjunction, I believe. 16th or 17th. I think it's the 17th. But in your 10th house, this is surprise conflicts at work. I call Mars conjunct Uranus surprise attacks, right? Like last time we had this was August of 2022. And a lot of it had to do with military conflicts, right? Or surprise violence that came out of left field. But also, one of the things was Trump's Mar-a-Lago home getting raided by the FBI. That was sort of a surprise attack as well. So, and this may have something to do with your work or your professional life or life direction. So you could see surprise conflicts with authority figures. Oftentimes it's bosses at work, but sometimes it's more our reputation. Like we could do something that makes us lose face, right? I always bring up the example that when Mars was going through my 10th house, it's where I sort of publicly started doing adult content again. And I got a lot of shit from people about that, So anyway, just watch out. You have to be poised and prepared for whatever comes. And that's what astrology teaches us. But on the other hand, you can be a little aware of the potential of conflicts erupting at work or with authority figures. And you can sort of do your best to anticipate them, That's what astrology is all about. It's about facing whatever comes, by at least being a little aware of it, or at least somewhat aware of what may or likely happen. So anyway, and then Mars is going into Gemini, your 11th house. So after July 20th until what? July 20th. No, September. I think that's the end of September when Mars goes into Cancer. I'll have to double check because it's November when Mars goes into Leo. So anyway. Excuse me. And that brings up conflicts with friends, and sometimes public harassment, The 11th house is the people who support us. And when Mars goes through the 11th house, they don't support us. They usually chastise us, right? Like when Mars went through my 11th house, I got a lot of public transphobia, you know? People were just sort of attacking me for a little bit. And I sort of had a falling out with a couple of friends. So just remember, you already have a bad rap for being difficult. Well, you have Mars in the first house, you know, and conjunct your North Node. That sort of exacerbates the temper, doesn't it? And you already have an assertive nature, but Mars is retrograde, right? And Mars rules the 9th house and the 4th house, right? So issues with dad on the one hand. I think dad was probably, you know, maybe a bit selfish and narcissistic, into his own shit, and maybe didn't pay any attention to you or wasn't around, right? Selfish, that kind of thing. So anyway, thank you, Ira Dream Seer. Thank you. But then Mars rules your 9th house too. So spirituality is a big deal to you. When I see a 9th house moon like you have, I think of those kids who are asking all those annoying questions when they're quite young. Like, what is God? How do you know there's a God, right? And you may have had religious parents, maybe a religious mother, because it's the moon. So anyway, you see, it's a lot of good stuff. So even though Mars is going through Gemini and pissing people off, Jupiter's also going through Gemini, right? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. But Jupiter's cleaning up all that stuff too. You know, bringing support back into your life. It's just unfolding a bit slower because Jupiter moves slower. So anyway, let's move on to the next person. We did Nina. I'm sorry, I keep saying it. We did Quantum. We did Nina. And we need to do Sage Oracle and then Helen Sturg and then Ira Dreamer. Sage Oracle. Sage Oracle's another Gemini. And I'm getting... So the way I do this is I prioritize donations and then I get to everyone else in sequence. Okay. I prioritize members number 1 and donations number 2. Okay. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And also please like the stream, like the stream, like the stream. And please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Because I need all the help I can get. So where the hell? Oh, Culpeper. We have to get to Culpeper at some point. Where's Sage? Sage Oracle. Sage Oracle. 6/11/69. 69. Right? One of my favorite numbers. Elizabethtown. Kentucky. Kentucky. Okay. Bex, hello, sweetheart. Bex is wonderful. Bex is one of my new partners. Well, Bex is my new partner. There's a few I don't really see anymore. So I have a couple positions open. Bex is such a sweetheart. Bex is wonderful. And she's so good to me. She's so, so, so good to me. She treats me like royalty, I promise you. So anyway, here's Sage Oracle. June the 11th, 69, 3:20 a.m. So really quickly, you're in Aries rising with Mars in the 9th house, which is really interesting because I have my first house ruler also in the 9th house. When you have that sort of condition, the life motif is about discovering meaning, right? It's about understanding the big questions in life. It's about understanding your own existence, right? When I see Mars in the 9th house, though, I also think of someone who had a bad experience of religion growing up, you know? It could have been the parents, right? Or it could have been religious education. But something would have soured your taste, right? Soured your taste to organize religion in general. And it may have made you quite interested in spirituality. Now Mars is retrograde, though, you know. Mars is retrograde, though. So it may have been something you kept to yourself. Or something you didn't start expressing till you got older. Even though you've had this impulse probably your whole life. And then the other pit that comes right up, you know, Let me just see what people are saying in the chat really quick, because I have ADHD. James, hello, James. Hello, James. Sarah Williams, I feel like you should be in Casadaga. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. What's Casadaga? Ira Dreamer, I love your content and candor. I've learned so much from you. Thank you so much, sweetheart. And remember, like the stream, please. Like the stream. The issue I often have with people is that I'm a bitch. And I'm very blunt. I'm very direct with people. And I don't bullshit people either. You know? So people get pissed at me. I don't mean to. I don't mean to. Beck says you are royalty, or to me at least. Thank you. And you're very special to me too, sweetheart. You're very special to me too. Anyway, we'll go back to this. Hello, fellow Kentuckian. Hello, my birth time. I follow you like forever. Thank you, Tina. Sarah Williams. I don't know if you ever heard of Casadaga, but it's the psychic capital of the world. They could use someone as accurate as you. I used to work there. That would be wonderful. I need to make more money. You know, I really need to make more money. So I diversify my income. I don't consider myself a psychic or a medium. In fact, I wear a large, right? This dress is a large. So anyway, I kind of want you to look at my chart, says Thomas Langford. Please, again, like the stream, subscribe to my channel, consider donating or tipping me. We're getting back to Sage Oracle now. So we talked about some of that interesting stuff, Sage. But what jumps out to me also is your Venus, Saturn, and Moon all in the second house. Thank you, Existential Dream. You are so sweet. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So anyway, all these characters in the second house. When I see that, I often think of people who didn't have a lot growing up. You know, perhaps it felt like you were poor, or maybe the parents made you feel like you were poor. Like, we don't have enough money for that. And you might see other people with like the new shoes and stuff, and you didn't get that. I mean, 1969, maybe it was the PF Flyers, you know, or the old school Converse. I mean, not for girls so much. And I'm assuming you're a girl. I'm assuming. And you see, when you have Saturn that closely conjunct Venus, even though she's quite happy, and that can be good for income, but it would be a big mixed bag, especially because Saturn's your most difficult planet and Venus is your best, because you were born at nighttime, you see? You were born at nighttime. And when Venus is conjunct Saturn, it can make us quite awkward socially. Sometimes a bit austere, you know? It's like the Tin Man, you know? Or do you ever see Austin Powers and remember Dr. Evil? He's like, I'm cool, I'm hip. And he's doing like the Macarena shit. It's that kind of awkward. It's stiff, it's rigid oftentimes. And it needs to learn how to let go and cut loose a bit. And when I see the Moon conjunct Saturn, like I have too, I think of mama trauma and mama drama. It usually correlates with domineering, overly strict, or sometimes abusive mothers. It can also correlate with depression, mental health issues. Often, most likely, it's depression. You know, because the Moon is sort of like our sense of emotional security, right? And Saturn just, you know, keeps putting pressure on us and weight on us all of our lives. You know, sometimes it correlates with chronic health issues like I have. You know, I have several chronic health issues, you know, but we keep on going, right? We keep plodding along, don't we? Now, in terms of timing, really quick, and we got to move on to someone else. Mars has been going through your second house, and therefore that conjunction between Mars and Uranus is happening in your house of money and finance. So on the one hand, it could be surprise losses or surprise expenses. So don't go around spending too much money before July 20th. And then when Mars goes into your third house, then you got to watch the fucking road rage, yo. You got to be careful when you're doing your trips and your errands. Give yourself an extra 10 minutes every time, right? Especially during this next transit. I think it goes until September. Or late August. Maybe it's late August. I think it might be late August, early September. I should really check really quick when Mars goes into Cancer. Mars into Cancer. When do you go into Cancer, homie? Yes, it's in September, but when in September? Stop it, motherfucker. September the 5th. September 4th or 5th. So just watch it till then. And watch that you don't say a bunch of nasty shit to people. I ended up, getting in a breakup over shit that I said. So, just watch yourself. Watch yourself. And Jupiter's going through the 3rd house too. So it's going to improve all that stuff. You might find yourself being incredibly productive over the next year. Until, next June when Jupiter goes into Cancer. Which will be lovely. You see? So anyway, we should move on to someone else. Now, Sage Oracle, one more thing. Right? Saturn is going through your 12th house right now until next year. And this literally makes us feel isolated. But don't get too depressed over it. Right? Because Saturn takes us out of public life. It takes us out of the ricketa-racketa. It isolates us. But sometimes it allows us to come to amazing epiphanies about ourselves. We get challenged with our self-destructive behavior. We get challenged with our mental health issues, if you will. When this happened to me, I started going through divorce, right? And I very literally was exiled from my own house, right? And moved in with friends. And out in the boonies, right? Out in the country. So you see, it was really like physical isolation for me, but it can also be mental isolation. I just don't want you to get too upset because you'll see light at the end of the tunnel towards the end of this year and the beginning of next year. You'll start to feel more yourself again, and you'll start getting an impulse to communicate and to connect again. You see? Anyway, let's move on to the next person. Let's move on to the next person. So after Sage, we had Helen. Anyone see Tommy Boy? Like, what's your name? Helen. That's beautiful. You look like a Helen. When they're at the restaurant. I don't know if anyone's seen Tommy Boy. Like, I remember the most obscure movies. I was raised on television. Remember, like the stream. Reza, oh my God, you are so sweet. Thank you so much. Thank you. I have such a wonderful international community too. Does that say you're Czech? Are you Czech? I just see CZK. Anyway, thank you, Reza. Thank you so much. Now, Helen Sturg. Helen. You look like a Helen. I'm so stupid. And then Ira Dreamseer. Helen. You look like a Helen. Sorry, I'll stop saying it. Where the fuck was your shit? I'm trying to look for your... See Teresa. Where's Helen? Oh, I see Helen now. December 22nd, 1971. 12/22, 1971. You look like a Helen. 1:44 a.m. And if you put your birth info in, make sure you do it in this order. Date, time, city. Because otherwise I get all wacky. Neurodivergent shit. Like, I have a very rigid brain. And we have Toronto. Oh, Canada, our home and native land. True patriot love and all thy sons command. See, I had to learn that because I might be exiled from the United States in 2025. Who knows? We'll see how that goes. I'm really scared about the election, yo. I'm super scared. Anyway, here's Helen's chart. We have a Libra rising with Pluto in the first house. So a creepy deepy kind of person. Someone who lets their power and their presence just sort of come through their pores. You wouldn't notice it. It's not a choice. But people would respond negatively to you. They'd be like, who the fuck does she think she is? There's a natural sense of, there's a natural powerful presence. You see? You may get hated on by other women because it would make them uncomfortable. It would make them uncomfortable. You see? Saturn. In the 9th house, like me, and retrograde like me. Saturn rules your 4th and 5th houses, right? So you may have had a children or a parent. You may have had a child or a parent that was particularly religious or spiritual. I imagine your dad was religious. Was your dad religious? But you would be a skeptic typically, or you would question organized religion. I mean, for example, I have a 9th house Saturn and I don't believe in a goddamn thing. I use astrology because I've seen it work materially, right? I don't have to believe in it because I've seen it work. I've experienced it empirically. And I consider myself an empiricist. I don't believe in things. I go off what evidence shows me and my own experience. So you may have a similar thing, being a Saturn retrograde in the 9th house. But a lot of that stuff, the skepticism and all that, may come later in life because Saturn is retrograde. Now, the thing about Saturn in the 9th house is when we're kids, we have our sense of meaning and wonder stripped away through some traumatic event. For me, I left the church when I was 12 years old because I started understanding this idea of altruism and I didn't see it being practiced. So I started with the occult, right? Very young, at 12 years old. But then we go on this quest for meaning the rest of our lives. Like, why is this? We're not satisfied with other people's answers. We're not satisfied with what other people think about things, you see? We want to discover stuff for ourselves. Let me go down and look at the chat. ZRE, quote and chill. Please, please, please like the stream if you haven't already and subscribe to my channel. Please, please, please. And donations and tips are very, very gratefully welcomed and gratefully deposited. It helps me keep making all this bullshit and doing all this stuff. Because now this is my primary business, is astrology, you see. I'm trying to make my YouTube presence more and more and more, Because that's how I get readings, yo. So anyway, I love Capricorn Venus. I call it mommy. Because I'm a Cancer Venus. I'm all gooey and mushy. And they're all like, oh, So, I love dummy mommies with a Capricorn Venus, of course. Oh, anyway. So, and you have a 5th house North Node. So you may have been quite serious as a child, but as you get into your 40s and later, you grow down as you grow up, right? Life is more and more about having fun. And you're probably quite sexual with the moon in the 5th house. I have my sun and Mars in the 5th house and I'm perpetually horny, right? I don't think there's a time when I'm not. So get ready, Bex. Sorry. Damn phone wouldn't let me comment. Oh yeah, blame the fucking phone. Sure. It's the phone's fault. I'm kidding. I'm playing. Technically, you have Mars opposite Pluto. It's out of sign, but still, that's kind of interesting. It feels like struggling for everything you want, oftentimes. Feels like life is a battle, like always fighting, Like always fighting. So anyway, Quote and Chill says you'll love my chart. Incredibly serious, I've aged well. Well, good job. So anyway, we're going to finish up with you right now. There's tons to say about your chart that we're not getting into because, we only got a little bit of time here. So, ADHD, I see ADHD with the retrograde Sag Mercury. Is it ADHD? I think it is. I could be wrong. I'm often wrong, and that's okay. But I see ADHD. Now, in terms of timing, Venus is now entering your 11th house, leaving your 10th. And it may have been nice in your 10th, but now it's time for more social and fun. Get out with friends. And you'll appreciate getting more supporters. You might feel more popular. Take some friends out with you. Go out to dinner, go dancing, right? Reconnect with people that you haven't spoken with in a while. Okay? Now, this whole Mars-Uranus conjunction is happening in your 8th house, which again, like the 2nd house, it's often surprise expenses. Surprise expenses. So please watch your money for the next, I don't know, month or so, right? Because you might have something come out of left field that you suddenly have to pay for or take care of, right? So be aware of that. I mean, sometimes it's theft also. It can be theft. Anyway, criminal activities, fear, all that sort of stuff. But really what I think more of is a surprise expense. And then Mars will go into your 9th house, cross over your Saturn, which will light a fire up under your ass, but it might make you like really idealistic and maybe a bit insufferable about what you believe. Because the 9th house is our beliefs, right? And Saturn in the 9th house oftentimes doesn't believe in a goddamn thing. Now, I assume that you do because you're here and, you know, spiritual and all that. Oh my God, everyone's being so nice to me today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So anyway, you know, this can be an enjoyable time, but at the same time, you can get in philosophical, religious, and political arguments. So just watch, because oftentimes those things can cut off our relationships. But we're in a very dire time right now when you have to stand up for what you believe. So I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I had a couple of bills I wasn't expecting. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you do need to get out more, Helen. You need to get out there, Helen. And I think you're going to be prompted to within the next few days and for the subsequent month, well, until August 4th, you see. It's amazing how powerful our perceptions can be regarding our experiences and processing them. Well, sure, and we have to question our perceptions because, like St. Paul said, we see through a glass darkly. We see everything through the lens of our identifications. For example, in my case, you know, I'm Saturn girl, I'm transgender, right? I'm an astrologer. I'm a single parent, right? All these things are lenses that I experience life through. They're identifications, you see? They're what we take ourselves to be. Ultimately, we take ourselves to be sort of an amalgam of colliding thoughts, feelings, and sensations, you see? And we take ourselves to be that. But are we more? I mean, yeah. Hello, Ziari Music. Thank you so much. You are so sweet. You are so sweet to me. Anyway, we got to move on. But yes, we can't even necessarily trust our perceptions. Doesn't mean we don't allow ourselves to feel things. But on the other hand, we have to be aware that our senses don't show us all of reality. And we know that for a fact. Take optical illusions, for example. You know, our brains fill in the gaps of our perception. And that's just neuroscience. You see? There's a neuroscientist I follow out of the University of Sussex named Dr. Anil Seth. And he does wonderful TED Talks and other series on consciousness and how consciousness arises, you see? And that's my obsession. So let's move on from Helen. I hope that was useful, Helen. I hope that was useful. Well, you also, really quickly, have Jupiter going through the 9th house for the next almost a year, till June of next year. And that helps us to recognize new modes of belief. You could take a long journey even. Like you go to a foreign country or something like that. But oftentimes it's more, you know, realigning ourselves with a new set of values or beliefs, or even politics, you see. So this is a wonderful transitional phase for you in terms of your spirituality, perhaps. But let's move on now. Let's move on now. We have Ira. We have Ira. Ira. So Ira. Ira, I have the 14th of August, 1991, 6 a.m. But I need your city, Ira. I need your city. Ira, did you put your city somewhere? Ira, I need your city, my love. Remember, for readings, I need date, time, city. Date, time, city. Date, time, city. Date, time, city. Bucharest. Thank you. You're Hungarian. You are Hungarian, Ira. Oh my God. I'm so afraid of the Viktor Orban stuff. I probably can't say that with you watching. I probably can't say that with you watching. But you know, the Republican Party here, like, idolizes Viktor Orban. And that whole shit scares the shit out of me. You know? Oh, you're Romanian. Oh, Bucharest is in Romania. Is it? I thought it was in Hungary. Oh no, that's Budapest. That's Budapest. I'm so sorry. You're from Bucharest. You're from Bucharest, not Budapest. So that's my bad. I usually consider myself an international girl, but I really fucked that up, didn't I? So you're Bucharest, Romania. Bucharest, Romania. And then let's see what the date was. What was the date? And I do a lot of bad impressions. So if anyone gets offended, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. 8/14/91, 6 a.m. Okay. So we have Ira. Ira Dreamseer from Bucharest. Not Budapest. Look at that sun in the first house. Conjunct the ascendant and Jupiter. You are so gregarious. People probably like you. Although I bet you may have a inflated sense of self-importance. Sometimes Jupiter in the first house can make us a little more, bigger, fuller, if you will. Sometimes larger people. But when I think of the sun in the first house, I think of my mother, right? These are people who loom large in their own universe, right? And it's in Leo, right? The sun is the center of the solar system. And so Leo feels like the center of the universe, doesn't it? I mean, not all the time. I'm kind of joking. But the sun conjunct Jupiter is often very jovial and gregarious, right? It can get along with people. It's very inclusive and welcoming, right? But on the other hand, you probably need to be in charge. You probably need to be in charge. And I imagine you have a difficult time with money, probably because you spend too much of it. You spend too much of it. Where's Mercury? In the second house in Virgo. Mercury's very happy there, but they are retrograde. So good stuff with money doesn't really happen until later in life, like late 30s. Late 30s is usually more when you get lucky with money. And the same thing with career. Career and life direction have probably been hard for you because Venus rules your 10th house and she's in fall. Venus stumbles and falls in Virgo, you see? Plus she's retrograde, which also delays things, you see? And meanwhile, Mars is sort of making you spend money or makes you enjoy spending money. So you just have to watch that a little bit. Now, you have another interesting configuration because Chiron's in the first house, which often signals codependency. But then Saturn is in the 7th house, which often indicates hyper-independence, you see? Avoiding people. And there's a sense that we get when we're children that we can't trust people. They let us down. Right? I think I mentioned last time, Trent Reznor, 9 Inch Nails. I will let you down. I will make you hurt. Right? It's the feeling that people just let us down and we can't count on them. And so there's this dual sort of conflicting lesson here about cultivating your own sense of value. Because with Chiron in the first house, we tend to look for our value through other people. And then with Saturn in the 7th house, We sort of want to avoid people and we only trust ourselves. So there's a reconciliation here between your own confidence and with trusting other people. And you have to understand that relationships are never fulfilling until you're willing to walk away. Because when we're not willing to walk away, when we're too scared to, then we allow ourselves to be treated like bullshit, right? So just be careful, because you're also a Libra moon like me, sweetheart. And we just want people to like us. We just want people to, we want to feel loved and cherished. And we want people to be happy and comfortable with us too, you see. Now, I wonder if you're a singer. Are you good at singing? I see Venus conjunct Mercury. Usually good singers. We also know that Mars is leaving your 10th house. So you may have had conflicts with authority figures. And now you're about to have conflicts with your homies, with your friends, right? And people who support you. So it's going to feel shaky for a bit, but then Jupiter moving through here helps you to pick all that stuff up, you see? Because you're going to be getting more supporters and you're going to be getting more social. You're going to be making more connections over the next year. So that's all good stuff. But meanwhile, Venus is entering your first house, which I talked about earlier. And this is the time to sparkle and to feel confident and to feel beautiful. And you could meet new partners. So isn't that fun? Now, remember, Mars is at the tail end of your 10th house with Uranus. So there could be surprise quitting of jobs or surprise conflicts with bosses. Something coming out of left field that brings conflicts in your professional life. So just be aware of that. But we got to move on to the next person. So we did Ira, and now we need to do existential dream. Existential dream. My whole life is an existential crisis. It's an existential crisis. So, where's existential dream? Existential dream. Oh, here we go. December the 24th. Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve. We've got existential dream is the ghost of Christmas past. The ghost of Christmas past. Existential dream. Existential dream. 12/24/90. Thank you for doing date time city. That's really helpful for me because that's the order that solar fire, this program, goes in. And it's really, really, really like my head goes into spins when it's all out of order. Long Island. Not to be confused with Short Island. That joke is so old and worn out. But I do mom jokes. So here we go. Holy shizzle. I hope we got all your information correct. December the 24th, 1990. 12:06 a.m. Oh, and you say love your attitude and energy. Well, I'm glad someone does. I do have a lot of energy, but my attitude isn't always well received. Some people think I'm not very nice. But, I try to at least be fair. I might not be nice, but I try to be fair. Anyway, none of that really matters. You have your Sun and Mercury square your ascendant. Libra ascendant. And Venus rules your Libra ascendant. And she's in Capricorn too. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 planets all in Capricorn, all in the 4th house. Right? So first what this tells me is that you probably had a very unstable home life growing up. Maybe there were conflicts with your father, or you had a bad relationship with your father. Dad could have been very strict and domineering, perhaps, right? And Saturn is trine Mars. So maybe he had a really good work ethic or something like that. So I imagine he sort of ruled the roost. But I could be wrong. I can always be wrong. And I wonder if your mother was especially sensitive, or maybe a martyr, or manipulative perhaps, or maybe a workaholic, or an enemy, or someone with chronic health issues. But once again, it kind of looks like difficulties with both the parents. I could be wrong, right? Excuse me. And you have Neptune conjunct Venus. That's seeing people through rose-colored glasses. That's getting caught up in fantasy and all those sorts of things. You know, Venus-Neptune contacts can either be, you know, beautiful and dreamy, or they can be very self-indulgent, you know. Always content to be thinking about things rather than actually doing them. So, and then when the sun is square the ascendant, right, there's sort of a disjunction between our personalities and sort of our inner life, right? Or our dharma, too, is indicated by the first house, sort of what we're here to do, our purpose. And you see, Libra is all about the middle way and sort of understanding, right, the resolution of opposites and how things are interdependent and intersect, right? But Capricorn sun is sort of more material, right? It's more interested in oftentimes material achievement because it's ruled by Saturn, you see? And not that that stuff is bad necessarily, but you see how your south node's in the 10th house, which means the first part of life up until like 38 or so is sort of governed by an impulse towards success or recognition. Whereas then the private life, self-investigation, self-study, building your own space, finding security, all that stuff would take more importance as you got older, you see, after you get to your late 30s and all that. Now, in terms of timing, see, the other thing too is Mercury retrograde in the 4th house. Usually those people like history or are into their ancestors or genealogy, right? 23andMe. But usually it's people who like history. Like I have retrograde Mercury in the 4th house and I'm obsessed with history. It's a big part of what I do, right? In terms of timing though, you know, you're having your Mars return. And the Mars-Uranus thing is happening in your 8th house. Once again, we talked about that surprise expenses, right? So save your money for the time being, at least till the end of the month. And then Mars will go into your 9th house, where you become a pain in the ass, arguing about all the stuff that you believe in, right? It can cause fights and schisms with family or friends, right? When we disagree. Life direction may have been difficult for you. You may be a late bloomer a little bit with Chiron in the 10th house, which is interesting too, because it seems like you would have been motivated, right? Motivated to get success, achievement, recognition, but it would have been slipping through your fingers, or you would have felt very frustrated, probably until, you know, early 30s or something. And then also in terms of timing, Venus is going into your 11th house. We talked about that earlier. Socializing, getting support from friends. I get by with a little help from my friends. I get high with a little help from my friends, right? Right. Anyway. Leo. And then Aquarius is sort of eclipsed here, isn't it? Sort of interesting. Your 5th house is sort of eclipsed. Gemini. Oh yeah, and Jupiter's going through your 9th house too. Reorienting what you believe or encouraging you to take a long journey. You know. Anyway, we got to move on to the next person. So we just did existential dream. And then we got to do Reza. When I see Reza, I think of the old Shah of Iran. Shah Reza Pahlavi. Reza Rose. That's just what I think of. Again, stupid politics and history nerd. So Reza. Or it makes me think of Bone Thugs and... No, sorry. Wu-Tang Clan. Right? The RZA. The Jizza. Oh Dirty. ODB. Right? The RZA, the Jizza, Method Man, Red Man, Yellow Man. No, not Yellow Man. Method Man, Red Man. So where's Reza? Shah Reza Pahlavi. Where's Reza? I don't see your stuff, Reza. I don't see your stuff, Reza. I actually fucked up the city. I was born in... Okay, you live in Prague now, but you were born in Písek. I think I said that correctly. So, 2/12/92. In America, we put everything backwards compared to the rest of the world. 4:50 p.m. and it's Písek, Czech Republic. I have a friend who's Croat. And that, I mean, the whole area, the Balkans, is so interesting. I mean, people can drink in the Balkans. People can drink in the Balkans. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. My Croat friend, like, he would tell me about how family people would pick him up at 7 in the morning and be drinking vodka, you know. So, sorry I have to eat something. Okay. Reza. Another Leo rising. There you go, your information correct. So for Leo rising, you already know what we're going to say about Mars leaving your 10th house and going into the 11th. You know, we're going to talk about surprise conflicts at work or with authority figures. We're going to talk about conflicts with friends, right? Losing support from people. But that Jupiter helps you regain all that, you see? And then we're going to talk about, remember, Venus goes into your first house, which is lovely for feeling pretty, right? And meeting people. Now, let's go into your natal chart, right? Because you should have heard all the timing stuff before. Right? Now, I didn't mention Saturn in the 8th house, which is happening too. Oh my gosh, thank you, AM. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you. So anyway, Saturn going through the 8th house is all about losses, unfortunately. And please like the stream and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Please, 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 please like the stream. Subscribe to my channel. And consider becoming a member of my channel. All these live streams, like, you know, they're available to anyone to see live. But then they're for members only in the replays. So, members only. So anyway, you know about all the timing stuff, at least you should. But Saturn in the 8th house is all about losses. Now, I have to be upfront with you. It could be losses like someone close to you or something, or a death. That's rare. That's more rare, and that's an extreme example. More often, it has to do with financial losses, with money losses. We're having to work off debt in some way. We're trying to dig ourselves out of the debt hole. But then psychologically, it also has to do with facing trauma and fear in our lives. If there's a fear that has been weighing on you, now you're going to be forced. Saturn's going to push you to face it. Unfortunately, and it won't be comfortable, right? I have to be upfront with you. I have to be direct with you. So, but you see, this gets better. You start to see the situation ease up at the beginning of next year, starting in January, right? As we get into those last 10 degrees of Pisces, you see? So anyway, and then there's this amazing dynamic that you have very similar to one of the other people we looked at. With Saturn, I'm actually more okay with death than debt. Yeah, I feel you, girl. I feel you. And we talked about this configuration earlier where Chiron's in the 1st house and Saturn's in the 7th. So it's this dissonance or this conflict, this struggle between the need for validation through other people and the need to be the need to be independent. The need to be independent, you see. Because Saturn in the 7th house often encourages hyper-independence. As I said before, these are people who learned early on that they can't trust other people, that they can't count on them. So you see, there's this struggle here between not feeling safe around people, and yet wanting their validation. And it only comes through your own confidence, your own sense of confidence, which also comes through doing things, through achievement, you see. And the 10th house is achievement. Your 10th house ruler is Venus in the 6th house. Perhaps you do something with animals, right? Or in the medical profession, or the service industry, you know, restaurants and hotels, hospitality, right? That's all 6th house stuff, right? Small animals. I bet you're very good with animals. I bet you've also been divorced, or maybe not yet. I shouldn't say that like that. It's not very nice. And when I see Venus conjunct Mars like that, I often think of, you know, if you were born female, people with a more assertive or a more masculine demeanor, right? Sometimes it upsets men because it, you know, cracks their fragile egos. Yeah. Yes. Now, Mars also rules your 4th house of the father, and therefore being in the 6th house may have made dad a workaholic, or given him chronic medical issues, or maybe he worked in the medical profession, you know, something like that. So we've already talked a lot about timing. We've already talked a lot about timing. But I want to mention, what else did I see? You also had that Venus-Neptune thing, right? Which is all disappearing into fantasy sometimes, and having all kinds of great ideas that we never actually do, you know? Just broke up with my boyfriend. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Eclipses. 3rd and 9th house, like me. You're going through a reorientation in what you believe too, because you had the April eclipse in your 9th house. Which is quite interesting. And the first part of life may have been very chaotic, or, you know, full of depression or mental health struggles. And now, as you get older, into your late 30s, life is going to become more about responsibility and taking care of these things and taking care of yourself. You know. Just broke up with boyfriend, never married. You're not missing much. I mean, I'm divorced, and, you know, you're not missing much with marriage. Everyone says I should work in some medical setting, but I can only see myself in the morgue. Well, that is sort of a medical setting too, in a way. Now, the morgue is very 8th house. You know, Jupiter rules your 8th house and is in the 2nd of money. So it could be something you do. So, single life rules. I mean, I'm polyamorous, so I like having at least 2 to 3 consistent partners, you know. I date a lot, but I think I'm more interested in having just 2 to 3 consistent partners, you know. 2 to 3 consistent partners. You know, because they wear them out. Sorry. That's bad. Well, not that bad. It's kind of fun. Anyway, we should move on. We should move on to the next person. Moon in the 11th house, though, can be quite popular. It can be quite popular. And it looks like you're a... I was going to say a gibbous moon, but... maybe not quite. Maybe not quite. I just reoriented myself to work as a mechanic in the near future. Oh! Well, that's very Venus in Aquarius, or sorry, Mercury in Aquarius. Mercury in Aquarius can see how parts fit together. You see them often in technical jobs. Like one of my good friends with Aquarius Venus is an IT person. Like very good with networking skills. Like they can see how the parts fit to the whole. Whereas Virgo Mercury more sees, you know, the parts fitting together and not so much the whole which they're supporting or going into. You see, Aquarius more sees the whole. Right? Think of Mitch Hedberg. Mitch Hedberg had this. Does anyone remember the comedian Mitch Hedberg? You know, he's like, my friend asked me if I wanted a frozen banana, and I said no. But I want a regular banana later. So yeah. And then he said, transportation is a good way to get around. Oh, you know. I mean, it's just those kind of funny, like, observations that are so obvious, but they just sound so absurd when you actually say them out loud, you know. But let's move on to the next person, of course. Next person. Next person. So we did Reza. We'll do ZRE. Snoop Dogg. Hey, 99. It's the motherfucking ZRE. Snoop Dogg. That's The Chronic. That was Dr. Dre, The Chronic, from the 1990s. And every time I see ZRE, I think of Dr. Dre, The Chronic. Because I think of the DRE, you know? It's the DRE. Now, where's the ZRE? Where's the ZRE? ZRE. Okay. Here's the ZRE. We have a Pisces rising. And we've already talked about Saturn going through the first house a bunch. I know we have. I know we have. Identity crisis. Health crisis. Being faced with parts of ourselves. Being faced with our mortality, right? 12th house moon can be rough, can it? Oftentimes we think of addiction. Sometimes we think of, you know, depression, anxiety, all those sorts of things. And we think of people who are hermits or just want to be alone. Now, the moon rules the 5th house. So, again, it can be neurodivergence, but it can be one of your children that has neurodivergence, perhaps, because it rules the 5th house. So just be aware of that if you do end up having children. Right? You know, and as you get older, as we said before, the life with the North Node in the 6th house is more and more about taking responsibility. I foresee you getting into debt and having difficult stuff with money, or at least the debt part of it. Because you do have Jupiter in the 2nd house, which is often pretty good, right? But Jupiter's opposite Mars, and Mars is like, whatever good you had with money, I'm going to fuck with that. You know, I'm going to fuck with your money. So just be careful. Just know that you have a tendency towards losing money, perhaps. You should never be gambling. Should never, ever be gambling. And you should learn to save. Learn to save and organize your finances. I'm partly saying that for myself as well. You've had Venus going through your 5th house, which is lovely. It's all about fun. And I wonder if you do have children with Venus in your 5th house natally. I bet you're quite sexual. I have Mars and the Sun in my 5th house. And, you know, I'm the sister of perpetual libido. So, you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. But Venus is going into your 6th house pretty quick here in just a couple days. And that means this is time to get your life in order, right? Make those doctor's appointments. Make your dentist appointments, right? If you've been wanting to start a diet, now's the time to do it. Or to start exercising or getting better sleep or a health routine of all the above, right? That's what the 6th house Venus transit is all about, right? It's about getting your life in order, getting your body in order, feeling good, right? Getting those endorphins going. And then Mars, right, has been in your 3rd house. Road rage, saying shitty shit. You know, when I see Saturn in the 3rd house too, I think of, once again, neurodivergence. Struggles learning when you're a kid. You know, struggles in elementary school or high school. You know? And then Saturn is square the moon. So that could be mama trauma. That could be trouble with substances. Could be trouble with depression. That sort of stuff. And oftentimes it's a difficult mother. You know? Not a very nice mother. Not a very nice mother. Excuse me. And I imagine history is important to you. Family history or history in general. Excuse me. Excuse me. What else were we going to say in terms of timing? Talked about Jupiter. So Mars is entering the 4th house for a bit. That can make you break stuff around the home, having conflicts around the home. You know, conflicts with your parents if they're still with us. I imagine they are. probably. So be careful with that. And for someone who seems like they're very interested in history like you, there's sometimes a tendency to cut ourselves off from it, right? Or to get very aggressive against our history, feeling a conflict with where we came from, you know? This is also generational wealth. So you could get cut off from a gift or something from your parents, you know? I'm not saying that's necessarily the case, but it could be. And I bet you're a terrible arguer with Mercury trine Mars. Although I bet you're a bit passive-aggressive about it, you know, because Mars is in Libra and stationing retrograde, you see. But we should move on to the next person. We should move on to the next person. Who was after ZRE? AM, did you put your birth information in here? ZRE says, hey, I'm making a bread right now. I've definitely been exercising. I've been agoraphobic. Yeah, you poor baby, I'm sorry. That's hard to do. I mean, I oftentimes just do exercise in my apartment. Where's AM? Where'd you put your birth info, AM? Or did you even put your birth info in? Were you just being sweet and donating? Were you just being sweet and donating? We'll go on to someone else, though. So please like the stream. Like the stream. Subscribe to my channel. Please, 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 please. Watch my other videos. I have a wonderful video. It's hilarious. That just came out about Venus entering Leo. And I did a video about the astrology of the election. So you need to watch all those. You need to watch all those. So now, okay, there we go. Oh, from Warsaw. You're from Poland. You're from Poland. Yeah, a lot of difficult stuff in Poland. I mean, politically, you know. Politically difficult in Poland. There's a big right-wing movement in Poland, too. I mean, it's all over the place. You know, it's all over the place. It's all over Europe. Thank God for the French elections. They had a coalition between the liberals and the left, and they were able to beat Marine Le Pen, the far right, because we already have Giorgia Meloni in Italy. We have another big far right insurgents happening in Germany. You know, Hungary is already that way. You know, who else? The UK. Even though Labour won, Labour has taken a big rightward shift, you know? So anyway, 1998, 5:15 p.m. Excuse me. I got a bunch of work to do, and then I want to go roller skating later. This evening, I want to be able to go roller skating. I want to go roller skating. I subscribed, but didn't know you could until you told me on here. I usually follow from Facebook. Yes, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm trying to do more and more on YouTube because I prefer to be on video. I prefer, you know, I like talking. I like sort of performing or being seen. Yeah. Might be all the 5th house shit. So, my 10th house ruler's in the 5th house. So yeah, please follow me here. This is much more important, and you get a lot better information here. Facebook, I'm just like arguing with people. I mean, not really. You know. Yeah, please follow me here. Please follow me here. Venus Energy, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Venus Energy. You're next, sweetheart. You are next. So, now AM. Do we have all your information? AM's a Cancer rising. You're so sweet. You've been having Venus go through your 1st house, so it's like, I'm so pretty. I'm so pretty. I feel pretty and witty and gay. And then Venus goes into your 2nd house. So you feel nice and pretty, and then Venus goes into your 2nd house, and it's like, well, let me buy some new clothes to make me feel pretty too. And that's cool. You know, Venus rules nice things and possessions in general. So, I mean, yeah, if you have some extra change, or if you have a little extra money to spend, you know, maybe get a new dress, maybe get a new top or whatever, or some new shoes that make you feel, you know, feel good. Just don't break the bank. The other thing that Venus does in the second house, though, is she gives us a little surprise sometimes, a little bit of offering of money. I don't think I have anything in my fifth house. I mean, and that's the thing. You don't need to have anything in any house. The stuff that you do have houses in, those houses are emphasized in your life. For example, for AM, it's the sixth house that's emphasized. For me, it's the fifth house and the ninth house, right, that are pretty well equally emphasized. You see? So, you know, sex and spirituality take focus in my life. Whereas for AM, you know, it's health, obligations, responsibilities that sort of take, become the emphasis, right, of life later. Or become the emphasis of your life in general, rather. So, and look, the Sun conjunct Pluto. Sun conjunct Pluto. See, with Sun conjunct Pluto, we get hammered throughout life. We just get smashed. You know? Unfortunately, that's how we learn. You know, everyone says Pluto is transformation, but what is transformation? Right? It's heat and pressure. It's crisis. We transform through crises. And, you know, I know that can seem rough and difficult and maybe insensitive, but it is the case typically. You know, it doesn't mean we don't enjoy life. There's lots in life to enjoy. Number one, you're a very spiritual type person with Jupiter very happy in your ninth house. Jupiter rules Pisces and therefore does great stuff for you in the ninth house. And it's about spirituality, beliefs, right? What you might call the path. You know, you might have all these wonderful psychic experiences or whatever, you know. Interesting stuff. But you also have to be careful when Jupiter square Mercury. I call that a bullshitter. You know, to me, that's the exaggerator. That's the exaggerator. Now, the other thing I was saying about transformation and all that, you see, Pluto conjunct the Sun also indicates a type of death or being acquainted with death, you see. So the moon ruling the first house and being in the eighth house, you have to be careful of self-harm. You know, Ernest Hemingway had this, I'm pretty sure. When I see the first house ruler in the eighth house, I think of people who have to be careful about self-harm. You know, people who need to be careful about self-harm, or who get involved in shady things perhaps, or who have to face issues with fears and things like that, you know, dealing with trauma. And with an Aquarius moon, that makes it harder because we always intellectualize our emotions, don't we? Now, Venus conjunct Pluto can be quite creepy in relationships. You see, it can get very possessive, you know, rather than introducing yourself to someone like, hi, you know, my name's AM. Do you want to go out sometime? With you, it's like stalking in the bushes. Treating potential partners like potential prey, right? Like being the wolf, right? Stalking the bunny. Yes? Yes, yes. Where's Saturn? 10th house, right? You're going to have your Saturn return next year, starting next year. Saturn in the 10th house really sort of makes us late bloomers with life direction oftentimes. Like we don't know what we want to do. Or sometimes our parents have expectations of us that we don't fulfill. And we feel quite guilty of it, like we let down our family, you know. Now, Venus has been going through your first house, right? We talked about that earlier. Now, Mars has been going through your 11th house, you know, conflicts with friends. Beck says, unfortunately, I have to go, but enjoy the rest of the stream. Your dress is pretty, by the way. Thank you, Bex. I'll talk to you later. I'll talk to you later, sweetheart. Anyway. And then, yeah. So Mars is going to be entering your 12th house in a little bit. And this faces us with our destructive behavior, our self-destructive behavior, with self-sabotage, right? It's internal conflicts conflicts with the sense of not self, perhaps. I guess that's a misleading way to say it, you know. But facing our self-destructive behavior, I don't know how else to say it, you know. Sometimes we get aggressively, we want to be alone, right? Aggressively alone, you see. That oftentimes happens. But it doesn't have to be a terrible transit. See, when Mars goes into the first house, eventually it's going to be like coming out of your shell again. But this is a time when you're sort of licking your wounds, perhaps. Especially if you did have conflicts with friends. You see? And then Jupiter's going through your 12th house. So see, there might be conflicts that make you aware again of self-sabotage. And then Jupiter going through here helps us to clean it all up. Excuse me. I have a hiatal hernia. And Jupiter going through the 12th house is also like self-care, right? We can get into therapy. We can meet a mentor who helps us with all these sorts of things, you see? So, I know when Jupiter went through my 12th house, I did meet a mentor. So, it's very interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. Talked about Venus, talked about Mars, talked about Jupiter. Oh, and see, you have all this spiritual stuff with Jupiter in the 9th house, but now Saturn's going through your 9th house. And it's questioning all your beliefs. It's challenging your beliefs. So remember, it may be an uncomfortable time, but you're going to find new belief systems. You're going to increase your understanding. Your understanding is expanding. So it's not all bad. But we need to go on to the next person who's Venus energy. Venus energy. Venus energy. And we've got Venus energy. Energy. Venus energy. Venus energy. 9/22/92. Excuse me. Caffeine crash. Thank you for doing Date Time City. Thank you for doing Date Time City. Okay. So Venus energy. I got September the 22nd, 1992, 8:25 p.m., Honesdale. So we got a Taurus rising here, ruled by Venus. Venus is placed in the 6th house. Now, that's not a great place for Venus, but she's in Libra, which she rules, which really helps out a lot. Makes her very happy. So you could be someone who is a responsible person, or who does have a sense of duty or obligation, right? Sometimes when I see the 1st house ruler in the 6th house, I think of someone who's a villain, right? Who's sort of the enemy. You know, like Marilyn Manson sort of made a career out of being the enemy, you know? But he's also an abusive piece of shit. Now, beyond that, though, we see people who also face incredible odds, right? Who have to struggle to get whatever they have. And it's about the good fight, not because you're going to win the fight, but because you know it's the right thing to do. You see? So I think that's a good thing. Although you could also see chronic health conditions. Could also be someone who works in the medical profession, as I said. Or you're probably good with animals. I think of people who are good with animals. Small animals. Small animals. Cassie, hey, how are you? Good to see you. I'm still here for another half an hour, so. I'm still here for another half an hour. Yeah, animals in the 6th house. Now, the moon's in the 4th house, which indicates also, you know, a need for a stable home life. Chiron's there, so you probably didn't have it growing up. But you need stability, right? You need stability, otherwise you don't feel right. You feel shaky. And the kind of partners you need are the ones you can share ideas with. Now, you may have had a difficult relationship time, you know, or maybe still do, because Mars rules your 7th house and isn't happy in Cancer. You work in the mental health field. I mean, that makes perfect sense, you know? That makes perfect sense. Now, but see, Saturn in your 10th house, right? Especially retrograde, it's like we typically don't know what we want to do, or we struggle finding our direction in life. And Saturn is directly opposite the moon, which is really tough. You know, that is probably your own mental health issues, right? That could be your own mental health issues. Excuse me. Excuse me. And you probably don't like attention. You probably don't like attention. I bet you have depression, or sometimes I see bipolar disorder or other things like that. Mom could have those as well. Mom could be just a very difficult person to deal with. And I imagine Dad wasn't a walk in the park either, because the sun falls in Libra and rules your 4th house of the father. Maybe Dad worked in the medical profession, or maybe Dad was a workaholic or had chronic health issues, you know. But the career stuff would straighten up as you got older, because, you know, your Saturn is still relatively happy being in their own sign of Aquarius. But he's, you know, they're retrograde. So all that good stuff of the 10th house doesn't really happen until, you know, you get a bit older. So, especially after the Saturn return, you see. Especially after the Saturn return, which you've already had. So maybe you're seeing things pick up a bit. But let's move on to the... Oh, I got to talk about timing, right? Talk about timing. So you've had Mars going through your 1st house, which can be a bit agitating, but it also helps our confidence. It can make us a bit of a pain in the ass, because we get extra assertive and we start telling people what to do. And we start acting like we know best, you know? And we can get a bit imposing. Feeling a bit wonky. Hopefully you're having a good start of the week. Yeah, I mean, I'm at the tail end of my Venus in my 6th house. And I've been working on my health and my habits, you know? I didn't drink for a week. And then I had a couple drinks the other night, and I felt like just sluggish and unproductive the next day. And it's like, I don't want that feeling, you know? So anyway. Oh, and you have Saturn square your ascendant too. You know, difficulties with confidence. And again, that can be chronic health issues, you see? That can be chronic health issues. But anyway, Mars was going through your 1st house. You want to be careful you don't get hurt, right? Because oftentimes we're rushing around, we get cuts, scrapes, burns, bruises, shit like that. But then Mars is going to go into your 2nd house, right? And that fucks with your money. So you got to watch spending too much money. You got to be careful. Now Venus is going to go into your 4th house. And this is harmony at home, right? This is enjoying your own company. This is decorating your space. It's making your space reflective of how you are inside. You know, you want to make it feel like you feel. You know, you want it to be beautiful, right? We've already reached the PM. What's the PM? I don't know what that is. The PM? The Prime Minister? That's what I think of when I see PM. Or nighttime? Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Oh, that's right. That's what I was saying. Venus going through the 4th house, right? Harmony at home, making our own space beautiful. Being secure in our own space. Finding comfort in security. You know, read some good books. You know, when I think of Venus going through the 4th house, I think of just enjoying being on the couch. You know, putting your feet up on the couch, having a little blanket over your little throw, you know, little throw blanket over you, and reading this new book, you know, whatever it is. Could be smut, could be self-help, could be spirituality. One of those S's. Anyway, and then Saturn going through the 11th house, right? Which oftentimes, you know, strains our relationships with our groups or our friends. It could be through another relationship, like your significant other or your spouse is dominating your attention. You know, Kate Blair, thank you so much. Annie S, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. We got to move on to the next person. We got to move on to the next person. But there's a lot of good stuff going on. There's a lot of good stuff going on. Thank you, Venus Energy. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was good. I hope that was good. Oh, you also need the type of partners that can share ideas with you. I think I already said that, actually. But difficulties in relationships, yeah. But you would need people you can have conversations with. Smart people. People who intellectually stimulate you, you see. Intellectually stimulate you. Now let's move on to the next person. We got Thomas Langford. Thomas Langford. Love all the Leo energy in this chat. Where is Thomas Langford's birth data? Thomas Langford. Thomas. Oh, your birthday's coming up soon, Thomas Langford. So please, please, please like the stream and subscribe to my channel. And I welcome donations, of course, and I prioritize members and donations. I prioritize members and donations. So please, please, please. Okay, 820. 98. Oh, 88. I'm sorry. 88. Thank you for doing Date Time City. 7:17 p.m. Maze Landing. Cool. Came right up. So Thomas Langford is an Aquarius rising like me. Hooray, Aqua rising. Oh, and you have a Cancer Venus like I do too. I wonder if you've been divorced. I wonder if you've been divorced. Because when I see Venus in the 6th house, I think of people who are great with animals. You know, another Ace Ventura type. Come to me, my jungle friends. You know? But it oftentimes does signal divorce or partners becoming enemies, you see? So something to be careful of. Now, you may have a job in spirituality or you know, well, you see, Venus rules the 9th house of like spirituality, astrology, philosophy, university professors, right? So Venus being in the 6th house here of your work and obligations signals that you may have a daily job that has to do with spirituality or academia or astrology or tarot or something like that. You know, or working with the church. I don't know, but those are frequent things we see. Now, Mars rules your 10th house and is in your 3rd and is pretty happy. So I wonder if you have to do things with communication or short travel, like deliveries, delivery driving, you know, or again, being a good talker, right? A speaking or writing gig, sometimes journalists, that kind of thing. We see the news media in the 3rd house, right? That type of stuff. You may be really into the news, aggressively so. You may get really excited or upset about politics. I don't know. I don't know. But see, the sun in the 7th house, like you're a Leo sun, yeah, but you're probably a bit of a simp. Because when I see the sun in the 7th house, I think of people who are just like really eager for relationships, or people who derive a sense of value from being liked or being in relationships with people, you see? And I imagine you're good with money, or at least I hope so. I think you might be. I think you might be. Where's your fifth house? If you were a woman, I would wonder if you had any miscarriages. I would wonder if you had any miscarriages. Do you have children? I wonder if you have children. I wonder if you have children. Anyway, the reason I say good with money is because Mercury rules Virgo and is in Virgo, you see, in your 8th house, which is usually good with other people's money, like budgeting, payroll, you know, sometimes investments, or you may be well acquainted with death. But life would be more and more about building your own income and your own little empire as you got older, you see. Where's Saturn? In the 11th house. Oh my gosh. See, Saturn rules your 1st house and is retrograding in the 11th house. So you may have been bullied a lot as a kid. You may have been made fun of or left out by your peers, right? Maybe you didn't have any friends. You felt lonely. But see, the moon is there too. So that may have been your experience, but in reality, you may have been well-liked or a bit popular. And you may have been still a bit of a wild child with that Sag moon, you see. But also having the 1st house ruler in the 11th house indicates that it's connections with other people that are sort of the most, they help stimulate and develop you as a person, right? That's how you come to understand yourself. But you see, as you get old, that would happen more as you got older, right? Maybe now at this time in your life, you're starting to feel that. But the other part of it too is that you probably have more of a close-knit group of friends. You might be suspicious of crowds or big groups, you know, where people who all think the same way can make you a bit hyper-individualistic in a way too, but different from the 7th house. You know, these are people who are like, I don't need anyone. But you do. You do. We all do. We all do. Saturn's going through your 2nd house right now, so you're having to reorganize your money and your financial situation. If you hadn't been tracking your expenses, you need to start now. That's one of the lessons here. And then the surprise attack with Mars and Uranus happens in your 4th house, right? Not too far from your part of fortune. You know, and this could signal very momentary misfortune, right? Which is typically having to do with the body. So just, you know, be careful with yourself and try not to hurt yourself if you can. So, but the tail end of this is like, okay, it's, you don't want to break things around your home. And then when Mars goes into your 5th house here, just like it is for me, if you have kids, they can be a bit of a pain in the ass. If you don't have kids, then you'll probably get super horny and be very motivated to have sexual relationships. And it may be that you get frustrated about it, you know, that you're not getting bites or luck or whatever. So you just got to take care of yourself. Like, dude, I service myself at least 5 times a day, you know, around 5 times a day, you know, and I still have a pretty active sex life. So no shame in that. No harm or shame in that. So that's how that shit feels, you know. Oh, and then Venus going into your 7th house. So you actually may meet people around this time, right? Same thing for me. This is often a time when we meet people. You might find that August is a very fruitful month for love for you, you know? So, shh, don't say that out loud. That's too funny. I'm an Uber driver and do music. Yeah, so driving, right? 3rd house. And music is 5th house, you know? So that's very interesting too, isn't it? That you have Jupiter in the 5th house and you do music. You're having your Jupiter return right now too. And this is very good for sexual relationships and for having fun in general. So you may have, you know, been a bit too serious over the past year, you know. So, Thomas, I really hope this was useful for you. And we have to move on to the next person. Annie makes me think of those dolls, you know, the what are they called? The CPR dolls. Annie, Annie, are you all right? Or what was that Michael Jackson song? Annie, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay, Annie? Sage Oracle. My website is saturngirl.org. Is it not working? It's saturngirl.org. .org. No, it's working. It's no longer frankielynch.com. It's saturngirl.org. My website is saturngirl.org. Saturngirl.org. I do the best readings in the fucking world. I am the best because I've been studying astrology for about 20 years, almost 20 years. And I've been through enough life experiences for me to be able to empathize with you for the most part. Although many of you from the Balkans and from Eastern Europe have been through war-torn areas, and I haven't been through that. So I've had Yugoslav clients, and the Yugoslav clients have, clients from Belgrade, and they've been through some shit, Oh, see, we had someone from Bucharest, Romania earlier, and now we have Annie S. from Budapest, Hungary. So now you really do have to live with Viktor Orban and all that bullshit. And then we got Kate Blair. Viktor Orban and all that bullshit. Annie, are you okay? Are you okay, Annie? Annie, are you okay? Are you okay, Annie? Annie, are you okay? Are you okay? I used to love Michael Jackson back in the day. There was even a Sega Genesis game, like Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. Like 11:20. I'm assuming that's 11:20 a.m. I'm assuming that's 11:20 in the morning. Budapest. Hungary. Viktor Orban. One of my favorite mamas. There's this woman who's in the women's UFC. She's in women's UFC, and her name is Sheena Bathory. Sheena Bathory. And she is oh my God, she's so gorgeous. She's a muscle mommy. She's got like biceps the size of my head, and she's beautiful. And she's badass. Like, oh my God. Like, please, mommy, please. Pick me up and toss me around, please. Morning, so we got you here. Yeah, Sheena Bathory. If you haven't seen Sheena Bathory, she's so dope. I don't know if she likes trans people, but everyone's attracted to me, though, or at least most people are. So, I'm so humble, aren't I? Now, you have something interesting that we saw before. You have Saturn conjunct the Sun and Venus. In fact, you have Mercury, Saturn, the Sun, and Venus all conjunct in the same sign. That's called a stellium. That's called a classic stellium. I usually say 3 planets or more conjunct in the same sign, but you got 4. This is some wild shit. So the 11th house is a big deal for you. On the one hand, this is difficult for you because you also may have, like the last person, felt left out and bullied as a kid, or made to feel alone or weird or whatever, pushed around perhaps. And as you get older, though, you have more of a closer, trusted circle of friends. You see, but friendship, connection, support, and like-minded people become more and more important in your life as you get older. Because that's where your North Node is, you see. And it's also where your Sun and Venus are, right? Now, Venus isn't happy in Virgo, but it's still quite interesting, you see. And I bet you're very intelligent. I bet you're very intelligent. And Mercury's conjunct your midheaven. So your sense of intelligence or your ability to see like the component parts of systems, right? To analyze things, to separate parts, to separate systems into their component parts. I think this factors well into your life. So customer service, probably because the Sun is in the 11th house also, ruling the 10th. And you have Jupiter in your 10th as well, which is good for helping you find your life direction, And the ruler being in the 11th house indicates that customers or supporters or patrons, right? Or like my members, that they support you, and that's where a lot of your success comes from, you know. So what you had difficulty with growing up was your social life, but then that becomes, the main part, one of the main ways that your life unfolds, and it becomes one of your main avenues for success. Now, your first house ruler is Mars in the 9th house. Mars isn't happy there. So you may have had to struggle a lot with identity. Once again, made to feel that yourself was wrong or bad or something in some way. And you probably struggled with religion as a kid. Someone in your life was religious probably, or you had to go to a religious school and it gave you a bad taste in your mouth. But then the first house ruler in the 9th house means that spirituality is sort of like always in the back of your mind, and it's part of your life motif. That finding meaning in life, and also finding whatever existence means to you as well. You find communication very difficult. Excuse me. Yeah, well, that's sort of interesting too. Saturn rules your 3rd house. And then having Saturn conjunct the sun is no walk in the park either. It gives people resting bitch face. And you have Venus conjunct Saturn too. So, it's very socially awkward. It's very socially awkward and rigid. It feels uncomfortable around other people oftentimes. So it's interesting because what the chart suggests is that all this social nature stuff is part of your life motif as well. But number 1 is the spiritual search, whatever that means to you. I don't like using the word spiritual. I prefer to say existential, because it has to do with existence and how you exist. And that Taurus moon, the moon loves being exalted in Taurus. But she also gets very simpy in the 7th house. She craves relationships. Right? And with Chiron there too, it's hard for you to trust people. So you may have had some really bad breakups, And Venus isn't happy and she rules your relationship house. So you've struggled probably with romantic relationships. But on the other hand, the kind of partners you need are ones who are friends first, or the kinds who you meet through friends, or like-minded people who share the same interests as you. Now in terms of timing, Mars and Uranus are going to be conjunct your moon, right? So this might upset you emotionally for a few days until later on in the month, right? June 20th is when Mars is going to enter your 8th house, which again, this is when we often accrue debt or have surprise expenses, but at this time, over the next few days, you might see yourself having surprise breakups, right? If you have a partner, or you may see surprise conflicts with a partner. Yes, but it's going to be an emotionally tumultuous time. But you also have to see that Jupiter's going through your 8th house as well, which is really good for luck with all that. You could get an inheritance during the next year or so. You could get luck with taxes or people owing you money, that kind of stuff. You may have your debt written down or reduced in some way. You may get luck from death. It doesn't just happen through inheritance. Sometimes a bully dies. One of my bullies apparently died. I don't know. It may be wrong, but it sounded like it happened. Anyway, we talked about Mars, we talked about Jupiter. Venus is going into your 10th house after being in your 9th, right? You may have a boss or someone at work, probably a woman who gives you more recognition or introduces you to a new opportunity, this is the time to get your resumes going, or sometimes to even find new jobs. Or sometimes you just get good recognition at work. Like people are like, oh, well done. Atta girl. Good job. Getting good press. So anyway, but let's move on to Kate Blair, to the Blair Witch Project. Someone was posting about the Blair Witch Project today, and it's so funny because that came out when I was in high school, and there was so much overhype around it. It was just so overhyped. And then I saw it with some friends, and it was so underwhelming. The only interesting part is when they found the tongue wrapped up in the little cloth. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! That was the only interesting part. Annie, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay, Annie? Annie, are you okay? The fuck, yo? I'm doing Kate Blair. The jiggly camera made me seasick. I couldn't watch it. Yeah, I know, for sure. For sure. Which is funny because then that camera style became like ubiquitous in movies after that. The mockumentary. The mockumentary type thing. 4:07 a.m. And it's Springfield. Springfield, Springfield, you're a hell of a town. That's from The Simpsons. Springfield. Jebediah Springfield. A noble spirit embiggens the smallest person. Embiggens. Anyway, that was from The Simpsons too. Kate Blair. I think I got all your information correct. December 8th, 1960, 4:07 a.m. Springfield, Missouri. Missouri. My grandfather used to call it Missouri. My grandfather used to call it Missouri. So we got a Scorpio rising. I think we've had a few of those today. It's quite interesting because the ruler of your rising sign is also Mars, and it's also in the 9th house like the last person. And not happy in Cancer, and retrograde. So, again, maybe a difficult experience of religion growing up, Either having to go to a religious school, or one of your parents may have been religious. And then your own need for meaning and understanding would be this central, life motif, right? Your own existence, understanding consciousness, right? You may be attracted to foreign cultures and stuff like that as well. But the other thing is that Mars is exactly opposite Saturn, and that's really rough, right? It feels like you have to work hard for everything. Feels like nothing comes easy. It's a lot of struggle. It's oftentimes a lot of struggle. With Saturn in the 3rd house, though, we often see neurodivergence, learning disabilities, difficulties with primary school. That's elementary school, high school, all that kind of shit. I wonder whose cosmic Cheerios I knocked over. I mean, that's kind of funny. But, I wouldn't latch on to it. I wouldn't worry about that. Like the things we don't have direct evidence or experience of, I always say, like, just, put it on the shelf for now. It may or may not be, but until it's useful or something that is meaningful in your life, just leave it on the shelf. Anyway, like the whole reincarnation thing, I'm not dying right now. I'm not experiencing my past life, so I put it on the shelf. I'm not concerned either way so much. So that's interesting on the one hand. On the other hand, what's also interesting is that you have all these guys in the 3rd house, right? We talked about Saturn with primary school. Oops. So it's just about time for me to get off. Why was that? Oh, that was... See, I'm on a new diet because Venus was in my 6th house. And I set timers for me to eat every 4 hours. So I don't forget. Because ADHD, we forget to eat. You know? So anyway, you have Neptune conjunct your ascendant. And there's interesting stuff with that. Because when Neptune is conjunct the ascendant, I call it the shape of water. Right? I call it the shape of water. You said you loved school but were bullied a lot. Yeah, I'm sorry, sweetheart. Did you have any neurodivergence? Did you have any speech impediments or a stutter? Did something keep you out of elementary school or high school in some way? Did you have to leave for a bit? I'm not sure. Did you have struggles with siblings or extended family? It would be interesting to know. Excuse me. But your communication and thinking and intellect are highlighted here because you have 3 planets in that house, you know? And you mentioned you were bullied a lot. Your 11th house ruler is Mercury, right? That rules your friendships, your connections, like-minded people and supporters. And look, Culpepper says, I'm here. So Culpepper, please don't go anywhere, because even though, like, I've reached 2 hours, I'm going to hang around and do you. And because you were here early on. You were here really early on. And I'm sorry to everyone I haven't gotten to yet. We try to get to as many people in 2 hours as we can. And also be, you know, giving information as well. I guess I could spend a lot less time on people's charts, but I think the information I give is enjoyed. So Mercury's not happy in Sagittarius, right? So it indicates that there is sort of trouble getting along with people, and bullying would be one of those things. Now, you probably have ADHD too, or a very scattered type of mind. You might impulsively blurt out shit, you know? You might impulsively blurt out shit. And your sun is in the 2nd house. Jupiter's not happy in Capricorn. He's in fall there, ruling your 2nd house. So it's like, well, maybe money's not so good. But with the sun in the 2nd house, you might be a business person or have had to build up your own business or small business. Because the sun in the 2nd house is sort of forging its own way financially, right? It's trying to build its little empire. You see, Arnold Schwarzenegger has his sun in the 2nd house. And the whole first part of his life was building up his business. His brand was him, right? Foot and mouth syndrome. See, with Sagittarius Mercury, it's more like hoof and mouth syndrome, right? Hoof and mouth disease, right? Because Sagittarius, they have hooves. Look at my hooves and look at my kitty cat. He wanted attention. This is Castor. And his brother Pollux is asleep on the bed. You see? You see, I wish I had this energy every time I did live streams. So Moon and Leo in the 10th house conjunct the ascendant. And the moon rules your 9th house, which is quite interesting. I wonder, so you may be a small business person? Oh, I live in England and now live in Korea. Oh, okay. Okay. Very interesting. I left high school and matriculated to college. Suspect undiagnosed neurospicy. Yeah, see, I was diagnosed with ADHD, but I've had many autistic partners, and almost all of them say, oh yeah, you're autistic. So, but I don't care to get diagnosed. I don't care to get diagnosed because I've got so many diagnoses already. I don't need another one. I don't need another diagnosis. So anyway. Oh, what I was saying about Neptune conjunct the ascendant. It can be manipulative. I call it the shape of water. It adapts to wherever it finds itself. You know how water just takes the shape of whatever vessel it's in? That's sort of what Neptune conjunct the ascendant does. And like I said, it can be manipulative. Manipulative for good or for bad. It's whatever your motives are, selfish or what. We're all selfish to a certain extent, right? And some of us are more aware of it than others. But when I see this, I think of people who, can manipulate individuals or groups to get what they want, right? Now, sometimes if there's an urgent need, that's a good thing to do. And other times when it's just you using people, it's not a good thing to do. So, but it has issues sort of like finding its identity. And that's where it gets all the adaptability stuff, really, when you think about it. When you think about it. And the moon is square your ascendant, right? So the emotionality, perhaps your impulsiveness or need for attention, really interfere with that Scorpio rising impulse, which is about being the spiritual warrior, you see? It's about discovering yourself and discovering your identity beyond just your thoughts and feelings and sensations and the conditions you've acquired in life. You're more than that stuff. You're the background upon which all that stuff happens. But anyway, I've done lots of videos about that. For timing, Saturn's going through your 5th house, which makes life very uncertain. But you'll have to take responsibility for all these little chaotic things as we get into June of next year. Then Mars has been going through your 7th house. So if you had a partner, you probably have been getting in conflicts with them. But then, see, we've talked about the timing with the Scorpio rising stuff. Mars going into the 8th house, right? Debt, unexpected expenses, right? Venus going into the 10th house, success, resumes, good recognition, good press, right? So all that's important stuff. And of course, Jupiter going through the 8th house, luck from death, or, added luck with your debt, or returns on investments, that sort of thing. See? Very important stuff. Very important stuff. So anyway, and we're going to get to Culpeper. Anyone who's still here, please subscribe to my channel. Like the stream. And I'm only able to get to so many people, and still give the benefit of, or still be able to give the same quality of information. The same quality of information. Culpeper. I'm sorry you had to wait so long, Culpeper. I really have to prioritize the people who pay, though, because, they're putting extra energy and, they're putting extra energy into me. What year were you born again? I know you put it somewhere here. When you realized you put the wrong... Where the fuck did your year go? Culpeper. I can't find your year. Oh, 1972. Oh, you were born in 1972. Makes me think of Hunter S. Thompson. Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, 1972. It's when I think Richard Nixon... Was Nixon already resigned? I remember there was the Barry Goldwater thing. Barry Goldwater was getting... And Hubert Humphrey, right? Because the left wanted George McGovern, right? George McGovern. See, you guys don't give a shit about that. You don't care about George McGovern or Barry Goldwater. But see, it's all that stuff that led us here to where we are now. Barry Goldwater was like the proto-Trump, Anyway, no one cares about that. Shut up, Saturn girl. Shut up. 4 a.m. NYC. 4 a.m. New York. These streets were made by Beyonce. I just know she sings that. Let's hear it for New York. New York was built by Jay-Z. Jay-Z and Beyonce. Let's hear it for New York. Let's hear it for New York. Wow, thank you so much. Take on me, take on me, take me on. I'll be gone. That's Alicia Keys. Oh, see, I don't fucking know. I thought it was Beyonce. Like, doesn't Jay-Z sing on that song? See, now let's hear it for New York. That's so funny. Oh yeah, it is Jay-Z and Alicia Keys. I don't know, I thought it was Beyonce for some reason. That shit came out when I was in college. And I wasn't really into it. So I never really got into Jay-Z. When it came to rap, I was listening to Brother Lynch, you know? Brother Lynch hung. So, anyway, look at this first house, Culpepper. You got Saturn there, which of course makes me think, oh gosh, someone who looks for their value in other people. Someone who needs to develop confidence, right? Through accomplishment. And your Jupiter does not look happy, ruling that 10th house. Your part of fortune in the 10th house suggests that success comes from recognition, right? From putting yourself out there, from achievement, from doing things. But your 10th house ruler is Jupiter, retrograde, and not very happy in the 8th house, right? So you could find yourself, you know, sometimes getting a bad reputation or being involved with shady activities, or it could be more like dealing with finance, investments, banking, right? Or death. Sometimes we have to deal with death. And your North Node is there, which means it indicates that this life is learning about loss, you see? Learning how to let things go. Spicy Pisces. That's so funny. I had this meme I made years ago called Spices, you know? Spices. So you got your Mars in the 2nd house too. Difficult for saving money. Just bleeding money. Bleeding money. In conflicts with your business or savings, you see? Do you see a new career with more money soon? Do I see a new career? You got Saturn going through your 10th house right now, sweetheart. And let me tell you about Saturn in the 10th house. See, it makes us very fearful over our career. It makes us very dissatisfied. When Saturn went through my 10th house, I was a restaurant manager. And I was almost guaranteed or promised that I was going to get this promotion overseeing 2 restaurants. And I really thought I was going to get it. And then they picked 2 older people. You know, they said I was, you know, I seemed too inexperienced, which really means I looked too young. And I was really crushed. But then, you know, I got put in charge of another restaurant that was smaller, but it also had a couple food trucks, you know. So I was doing more work and more responsibility, and I got to show how good my numbers were, right? Like my food cost, my labor cost, my revenue, all these things were getting me a lot of good recognition. And new opportunities came up later towards the last 10 degrees of my 10th house. So for you, you're going to see some light at the end of the tunnel. You know, I want to say I promise, but I'm not going to. But I really am confident you'll see light at the end of the tunnel at the beginning of next year. And it would be opportunities you probably didn't anticipate, right? Saturn in the 10th house puts us in a new direction. Your life may have been moving on one track, and now Saturn is like, no, we're going to take this track. You see? The thing is you have to be adaptable and flexible for it. And you're a Gemini rising, so you know you should be. But you're going to be depressed and scared in the interim, you know, about jobs and money and stuff, because quite frankly, it feels very uncertain. You may have had an opportunity that slipped through your fingers. I'm saying starting January, you're definitely going to see light at the end of the tunnel. Doesn't mean you won't see some before then, but that's the big thing that sticks out, you see? Now, Jupiter rules your 10th house and is going through your first house, right? This also is a good indicator for career stuff. So you may find luck with a new job. And also with Gemini going through the Jupiter going through the first house, you start cultivating confidence, right? And this is, right, confidence comes from doing things, from accomplishment, you see? And Saturn is forcing you, right? Saturn is forcing you to say, well, what have I really done? Like, what is it that I really did? You see? You need to figure out your accomplishments. You need to learn how to sell yourself, partly. And you will see, like I said, you will see light at the end of the tunnel. Now, also important to remember for you, Culpepper, is that in September, there's going to be a lunar eclipse. So the sun will be in your 4th house, and oh shit, god damn it, I'm so sorry. There we go. Now your chart's up on the shit. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, the lunar eclipse is going to be in your 10th house, which sort of brings things to a close. So if there's been a persistent job search or discomfort with it, that will come to a close following September. So you see these things sort of intersect, right? You've got Jupiter going through Gemini, ruling your 10th house. You've got Saturn and Pisces going through your 10th house. And then you've got the lunar eclipse in your 10th house. So you have a lot of these indicators here of adjustments in career. We see, if you were getting a full reading, I could go more into your timing with progressions and zodiacal releasing, but at least that's what transits show us. Now Mars is about to go through your 1st house, which will feel much better than you have been. And you may feel more energetic, aggressive, assertive, but you got to be careful that you don't push your will onto other people. Let people make their own decisions, right? And take care of yourself. You might be rushing around so much that you get hurt, cut, scraped, burned, bruised, you know? And then Venus going into your 3rd house is wonderful. You know, it's diplomatic speech, it's pleasurable outings, right? It's getting out in your community. It's reconciling or, you know, having fun or relationships with brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins. You see? You see? But life in general is learning about loss, how to let things go, you see? Learning how to let things go with this North Node in the 8th house. So, doesn't seem like it's wonderful, but these are people who eventually learn how to move through life freer, right? Tread through life lightly with as few obligations as you can. That's what I always say. Tread through life lightly with as few obligations as you can. You need to reconcile with your sister. Well, Venus rules sisters as well. And Venus is about to go through your 3rd house in just a couple days. So between now and August 4th, I imagine you could have a reconciliation with your sister. So, very good, very good. So, you see, confidence is a big thing, because on the one hand, you have an outward appearance of confidence. On the other hand, you know, you might feel very unsure of yourself, or, you know, or treat yourself very shitty, you see. You need to be nicer to yourself, perhaps. And I bet you're attractive, you know. Venus conjunct the sun. Venus conjunct the sun. Anyway, I do have to go now. So please like the stream if you didn't. Please subscribe to my channel if you didn't. I'm going to go live again. By Saturday and Sunday. I'll probably go live again Saturday and Sunday. If I can tomorrow, I will. But I'm trying to produce my Mars and Gemini video. And I still have to fucking make my Lilith videos. Right? I'm doing video on what Lilith means, where she comes from, and what she means through all the houses. You see? So, anyway, I love you all. Please get as many of your friends to come to these and to watch my videos. Because, you know, I need all the help I can get. And I'm trying to move all my Facebook shit here because I get in trouble on Facebook all the fucking time, you know? So, anyway, love you all. Have a wonderful rest of